talking about Vishaka Nakshatra. This is between Libra and Scorpio, ruled by the gods Indra, the god of the sky and lightning, and Agni, the god of fire and purification. It's very transitional nakshatra, so check this out. Talking today about Vishaka Nakshatra. Now this nakshatra is between Libra and Scorpio, and it shows that transition from the humanism and the sort of camaraderie and compromise of Libra with the intensity and the focus and drive of Scorpio. So Vishaka Nakshatra is actually, it's called the star of purpose and of ambition. It's very sort of noble in a certain way, or at least motivated by things that are righteous. A lot of righteousness and a sort of gaze upward toward higher and what you might say humanistic values. It takes that quality of Libra, which can be just about people and individuals getting along or trying to get along with each other, and elevates it, turns it into something that's more about social progress, about reform, about larger themes like justice, and it's ruled by two gods, Indra and Agni, who are really the two major sort of, badasses, if I could talk about the gods that way, pardon me, but it's a compliment, in the Vedas, especially in the Rig Veda. Indra was the king of the gods. He was the one who was, had all the responsibility and the duty, and especially when you look at Indra in the Vedas, not Indra when he's talked about in later texts, like in a lot of the stories, like the classics like Mahabharata and other texts like in the Puranas and whatnot. Indra is sort of not an object of ridicule, but he's kind of always on the verge of ruining the kingdom because he gets into some ego struggle with an Asura and all of that, which, again, there's something to be learned by that approach, because literally the Puranic texts, which have to do with, the gods and the emanations, are really more about trying to show how to maintain a glorious and, dignified life on earth. And it shows a lot of stories about the gods interacting with mortals and these kinds of things. It's a lot of stories and fables that are meant to illustrate our life on earth. And there's a lot of things in the Puranas, but the point being is that it's basically a lot of stories illustrating things that happen. And in that context, Indra, he's not Shiva, or he's not, one of the incarnations of Vishnu or whatever. He's a king of the gods, which are sort of like the demigods. So he's kind of like a rung below. So you see deities like Shiva and incarnations of Vishnu and all of these having to come and save the universe because of something Indra did. But in the Vedas, which really the nakshatras are the connections to the Vedic principles, literally from the Vedas more than later in the secular writings, Indra is like the mighty one who saves the universe. He's kind of like the Shiva. You didn't really have Shiva. Shiva came about in the Krishna Yajurveda in a section called the Sri Rudram, where he was Rudra, but again, without this being a history lesson of Vedic, deities and mythology, because that could go for a long time. Indra was like the god of the sky and of lightning, and he got into the battle with the dragon who actually stole all the water from the earth, and then Indra, did battle with him and saved the earth by allowing himself to be swallowed by the demon and then cutting a hole in the dragon's stomach to return all the water to the earth. And so Indra was like the great savior. I'm only saying this because a lot of people might know of Indra as, you know, the one who keeps almost ruining the universe because of getting into a battle with a demon. That's in later texts. And we want to look at the nature of the gods when we look at nakshatras more in their Vedic context, literally from the Vedas. And so Indra was the king of all the gods, right? So that's quite a station to be in. And he was in charge of a group of entities called the Maruts, which later became related to what are called the Rudras, which are more related to Shiva. So Indra is very much like a Shiva figure, which of course he's the great powerful one, the Mahadeva. And then Agni is the other deity of Vishaka, who is the god of fire. Of course, Agni was probably, I think Agni was the most referenced in the Rig Veda. There were more to Agni than I think any other one, because Agni is the fire through which we offer the sacrifice and the ritual. It's also the digestive fire in your belly. So when you eat food, it's a sacrament to Lord Agni, because he's the one who digests it. And the food as a sacrament to Agni is also a sacrament to your divinity. That's why you need to eat good food. If you eat pure food, you have a pure mind, you have pure thoughts. And this is why when you eat impure food, that's the product of, you know, torture of animals or other kinds of things, you take that on. It's not just energetically, but literally. It is literally the energy of it, but it's also the substance itself is heavier and darker. So this is why food is a sacrament to Agni, and we pray. Our prayer is really sort of a prayer to Agni and to also Brahma. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagna, Brahmanahutam, Brahmavanedigantivyam, Brahmakrama Samadhina. It's literally to Brahma, but it's also to Agni to digest and to make the fire, the digestive fire strong and the fire to be clear. So these are the two deities of Vishaka. It's a very powerful nakshatra, and so literally it's where that quality of Libra, which is to get along and to be and to learn how to compromise and to be with others, starts to change into the intensity and the desire to face the stresses and the difficulties in life which we have in Scorpio. So again, nakshatras exist between two rashis, and of course this is the sidereal, the classic Indian sidereal zodiac approach. Tropical zodiac is not anywhere in the texts, in the astrological text. Vedic astrology is based on one sidereal zodiac, rashis and nakshatras aligned. From the mists of time, we've had Vishaka from 20 degrees Libra to 3 degrees 20 minutes of Scorpio. It is the nakshatra that bridges those two rashis. And again, just to say, if you're not sure, if you don't know this, when you start using this tropical rashi thing that some people talk about, all that's mixed up. It doesn't exist anymore. So this is clearly between these two rashis, and you can see that very clearly. And again, so it's where, just like Indra and Agni, who were transcendent figures, they weren't just kind of like villagers doing their thing, living their life trying to be happy. They were big, mighty figures taking on responsibility. See, this is the thing about that kind of eminence and that kind of power, is it's a great call to duty and dharma and purpose and responsibility. It's hard to be the king. People think, oh, well, the king. Of course, a bad king is fat, lazy, and exploiting everyone. That's not what the king is in the Vedic sense. The king is the one who is responsible, not passing the buck. We're used to kings and power exploiting people, but that's not what they refer to. Lord Krishna was a king. Lord Rama was a king. The kings of old were the most noble, most powerful, intelligent, wise. And so Indra as the king was the one who was responsible for everyone. It's a big purpose. And again, it's that part of Libra, which is, there's a part of Libra that has a lot of social, that feels a sense of social responsibility and is willing to go to battle over it. Like Indra was a great warrior. Agni, again, the fire to consume and devour and destroy and purify Again, Agni was also a great warrior, right? They had enormous powers. They weren't just these, figures who were trying to get along. Like there's the god Mitra, who is the deity of the next nakshatra. All these nakshatras and these nakshatra deities have different qualities. Indra and Agni, both of them, are the deity of Vishaka. And so it brings that eminence and that sense of duty, of dharma, of purpose, of social responsibility, and the willingness to establish and work hard and fight to restore social order out of chaos, and to take on where dharma is not being applied. So it's to bring those qualities to the social realm, to the realm of people, and to say, look, people, here's what's righteous. And to be willing to stand in the fire of that and face the intensity that comes next, because again, it starts in Libra and ends in Scorpio, and it's where Saturn is exalted. So the first degrees of Saturn's exaltation is the first degree of Vishaka. The highest exaltation point of Saturn at 20 Libra is the first degrees of Scorpio. The first degrees of Vishaka. And the last degree of Vishaka is where the moon is at its deepest debilitation at 3 degrees. So it's at that point of Libra and Scorpio, which is a very transitional point in the zodiac, where we're transitioning from wanting to be happy with each other and share, and I'm going to be happy, I'm going to live a happy life with my partner, which is the Libra kind of fantasy, to the Scorpio fantasy, which is, okay, even if I get the partner, I still have to face all of my fears, insecurities, my fear of death. I still can't control all of this. So Scorpio is where we face that fear of those things we can't control, starting with the other person. So we learn about the Scorpio lesson and those things we can't control by dealing with relationships. Because we think, I'm going to have this wonderful thing, and then we get it, and then we're like, now it's controlling me. I have no control over it. Everything they do is in control of me, so I need to get control of myself. Not try to control them, blah, blah. That's all the Scorpio thing. So this transition from Libra to Scorpio is a big one in life. And these are archetypes. It's not, I have planets in Scorpio. The zodiac is a mandala of evolution. So the evolutionary principle between Libra and Scorpio is bridged by Vishaka Nakshatra. So we start to look higher than just our personal happiness and personal relationship, which is the Libra principle in Vishaka, and we start to orient it towards something that's bigger. Because this is also what happens when your life starts to become about something bigger than just trying to be happy with another person and the kind of romance, soulmate delusion. You're willing to step up and sacrifice more. And you start to sacrifice, and you start to see your life as having a larger purpose. That's why Vishaka is that star of purpose, driven by the gods Indra and Agni. And it starts at the exaltation point of Saturn and ends at the debilitation point of the moon. So very powerful nakshatra, Vishaka, between Libra and Scorpio.